In the dim hum of a midnight flight, his head lolled onto her shoulder, exhausted billionaire seeking escape, weary single mom guarding her heart. One accidental touch, and the walls between worlds began to crack. Hey everyone, before we dive into this heart-tugging tale of unexpected sparks at 30,000 feet, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from tonight, and what's the time on your clock? Is it late-night vibes or early morning coffee? Can't wait to hear. Your stories make these journeys even richer. The leather seat creaked under Alexander Hale's weight as he settled into first class, the kind of throne that whispered power but echoed with silence. At 42, he was the architect of empires, Hale Tech's CEO, a name etched in Forbes lists and whispered in boardrooms from Shanghai to Silicon Valley. His suit, tailored in Milan, hung impeccably, but the knot in his tie felt like a noose tonight. The flight attendant's smile was perfunctory as she handed him a scotch, neat, no ice. Because ice melted, and Alexander had long ago learned to avoid anything that dissolved. He stared out the window at the tarmac lights blurring into streaks of gold, the roar of engines, a distant hum against the storm in his chest. Another merger closed in New York, another victory that tasted like ash. His phone buzzed, deal sealed. Drinks on the rooftop, from his assistant, ever the gatekeeper of his solitude. He silenced it, fingers lingering on the screen where a photo lingered in his deleted folder. A younger him, arm around a woman whose laugh lines had faded from his memory. Divorced 5 years now, no kids, no entanglements, just the grind, the endless climb up a mountain that grew steeper with every summit. Why bother, he muttered to the empty armrest, the words swallowed by the cabin's pressurized hush. He wasn't built for the mess of hearts, too many variables, too much risk. Better to sleep it off, wake up in Seattle mended by routine. He reclined the seat, eyes heavy. From the jet lag that clung like fog, and let the darkness pull him under. No dreams, just the void he called home. 12 rows back in the economy crush where elbows kissed strangers and the air smelled of recycled pretzels and faint desperation, Lila Voss shifted her 5-year-old daughter, Mia, onto her lap. The girl's curls tickled her neck, warm and sticky from the airport's overpriced smoothie that had spilled en route. Lila's economy ticket was a splurge, earned from double shifts at the coffee shop and freelance graphic gigs that paid in pennies but kept the lights on in their cramped Tacoma apartment. At 35, she was a fortress of quiet strength, faded jeans hugging hips softened by motherhood, a cardigan frayed at the cuffs from too many washes. Her brown eyes, the color of worn leather, scanned the safety card like it held secrets to survival. Mia whimpered, thumb in mouth, clutching the stuffed elephant Alexander's flight had unknowingly doomed to a lifetime of lint. Mama, when's Daddy coming? The question landed like a pebble in still water, rippling through Lila's resolve. She smoothed the girl's hair, the motion automatic, a ritual born of too many solo bedtimes. Soon, baby, he's working late again. A lie soft as the blanket draped over them, but necessary. Mia's father, really, had billeted 2 years back, chasing waves in Hawaii while Lila chased pediatrician bills and preschool fees. No alimony, no cards on birthdays. Just echoes. Lila's fingers traced the elephant's ear, calluses from steaming lattes rough against the plush. She hadn't dated since, hadn't let the cracks show. Love was a luxury she couldn't afford, not with Mia's feverish nights and the landlord's knocks. But tonight, as the plane taxied, a pang twisted in her gut, sharp as the overhead bin's latch. What if she was enough, not just for Mia, but for someone to lean on? She shook it off, humming a lullaby under her breath, the melody fraying like her edges. The engines whined to life, pressing her back into the seat. Mia's head lolled against her chest, breaths evening out. Lila closed her eyes, willing sleep to come, but the turbulence of what-ifs kept her anchored. Up in first class, Alexander stirred as the plane leveled, the seatbelt signs ding a faint chime. Turbulence, no, just the pull of exhaustion. He rubbed his neck, the scotch's warmth lingering like regret. Across the aisle, a businessman snored into his newspaper, oblivious. Alexander envied that oblivion without the weight. He flagged the attendant for coffee black and pulled out his tablet. Emails stacked like bricks, projections, pivots, the empire's pulse. But his thumb hovered over a blank note app, words unspoken for years itching to spill. What if this is all there is? He deleted it before it formed. Down the aisle, Lila felt the shift too, the subtle dip that made Mia cling tighter. She glanced up, catching a glimpse of the curtain. Dividing worlds, silk luxury from vinyl reality. A flight attendant breezed past, her heels clicking like judgments. Lila adjusted Mia's blanket, tucking it under chubby knees, and whispered, "We've got this, little one, just you and me against the sky." Her voice cracked on the edge, a vulnerability she buried deep. The man across the row, a salesman with a tie askew, offered a sympathetic nod, but she looked away. Strangers didn't fix fractures. As the plane climbed into the ink-black night, stars pricking the void like distant hopes, fate nudged its first invisible thread. Alexander, restless, unbuckled and paced the aisle during the brief calm, his shadow stretching long under the cabin lights. He paused at the curtain's edge, drawn by a soft murmur from economy, a child's giggle cutting the drone. There in row 22, seat C, a woman cradled a sleeping girl, her profile illuminated by the glow of a reading light. Her hand stroked the child's back in slow, rhythmic circles, a motion so tender it snagged something raw in his chest. He didn't know her name, didn't know the wars she'd fought alone, but in that suspended breath, as the plane banked west, Alexander felt the first tremor of collision, an accidental orbit pulling him toward the shoulder that would soon bear more than weight. Hours blurred into the monotonous drone of flight, the cabin a cocoon of half-lights and hushed breaths. Alexander had returned to his seat after that fleeting glimpse through the curtain, the child's giggle lingering like a half-remembered melody. He tried to bury it under spreadsheets on his tablet, numbers marching in sterile rows, projections for the next quarter, firewalls against the chaos of feeling. But sleep clawed at him again, relentless as the jet stream. The scotch had mellowed into a dull ache behind his eyes, and the hum of the engines vibrated through his bones like a lullaby he couldn't refuse. He reclined once more, head tipping sideways in surrender. The armrest dug into his shoulder, but exhaustion won. His eyelids fluttered shut, the world narrowing to the rhythmic whoosh of air vents and the faint scent of citrus cleaner masking older stains. Unseen, the plane hit a pocket of clear air turbulence, a subtle shudder like the earth tilting on its axis. Alexander's body followed, slumping sideways across the aisle divide. His temple met soft wool, warm and yielding, the shoulder of the woman in 22C, 12 rows back. Lila had been drifting in that liminal space between wakefulness and dreams, Mia's weight a grounding anchor on her lap. The girl's breaths came in soft puffs against her collarbone, elephant clutched like a talisman. Lila's own eyes had half closed, lulled by the steady ascent into starless night, her mind wandering to the sketchpad in her bag, half-finished illustrations of wildflowers pushing through cracked sidewalks, symbols of her own stubborn bloom. The sudden jolt yanked her alert, a gasp caught in her throat as something heavy settled against her. Warmth bloomed through her cardigan, foreign and electric. A man's head, dark hair, tousled against the gray wool, his breath stirring the loose strands at her neck. She froze, every muscle coiling like a spring. The scent hit her next, crisp cologne laced with scotch and something earthier like rain on leather. Not the stale sweat of the salesman across the way, but refined, invasive. Her heart stuttered, a wild bird against ribs she'd armored for years. Who? She didn't dare turn fully. Mia stirred faintly, mumbling into the blanket, but her peripheral vision caught the suit cuff brushing her elbow, gold watch glinting under the dim overhead. Alexander stirred in his haze, awareness seeping in like fog lifting. Softness cradled him, not the unyielding headrest of his seat, but yielding curves and a faint floral trace, lavender. His cheek pressed deeper instinctively, the exhaustion too deep to pull away. For a split second, it was refuge. No boardrooms, no echoes of Empty penthouses, just this accidental harbor, warm as a forgotten embrace. Then reality pricked, the hitch in her breath, the subtle stiffening beneath him. His eyes snapped open, meeting the curve of her jaw inches away. Strangers, bound by gravity's whim. He jolted upright, cheeks flushing under the perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, mumbling a garbled sorry turbulence. The words tangled, unused to apology without calculation. His hand hovered as if to steady her, but dropped to his knee instead, knuckles whitening against charcoal slacks. What hidden part of him had sought this? The part that craved anchors in the void, the one he'd buried under mergers and miles. Lila's pulse thrummed in her ears, louder than the engine's growl. She shifted Mia gently, buying time, her free hand smoothing her cardigan as if to erase the imprint of his weight. "It's fine," she whispered, voice steady but laced with the tremor of surprise. Fine, it wasn't. His nearness cracked something. Fisher in the solitude she'd worn like armor. For 2 years, touches had been clinical, doctors' hands, Mia's sticky fingers. This was different, unbidden, human. Her eyes flicked to his, steel gray, shadowed with something unguarded, a mirror to her own quiet ache. She looked away, cheeks warming, busying herself with Mia's blanket. But the silence stretched, heavy with subtext. I didn't mean to lean in, but God, it felt like coming home. The flight attendant's cart rattled past, breaking the spell with offers of lukewarm tea. Alexander cleared his throat, twisting in his seat to face her fully now, the curtain no longer a divide. Can I get you something? Coffee, water." His voice was low, polished edges fraying, revealing the boy beneath the billionaire, the one who once fixed neighbors' bikes for a smile. Lila met his gaze then, really met it, her brown eyes steady despite the flutter in her chest. "We're good, really." A pause, then softer. "Happens to the best of us. Long flight, long life," her mind echoed, unsaid. Mia sighed in sleep, and Lila's hand stilled on the girl's back, the moment suspending them, 2 orbits grazed, sparks unspoken but ignited. As the plane droned on, the air between them hummed with possibility, the accidental touch a bomb quietly detonating in the quiet of their hearts. Hey there, mid-flight drama heating up, right? If you're still with me on this unexpected love story, pause for a sec. Where are you tuning in from, and what's the clock saying for you? Late night scroll or afternoon escape? Share in the comments. Your spots on the map make this feel like we're all soaring together. The cart's rattle faded down the aisle, leaving a vacuum that Alexander filled with motion. He straightened his tie, fingers precise as a surgeon's, reclaiming the armor of routine. Just turbulence, he told himself, the lie settling like sediment in his Scotch glass. Turbulence didn't explain the way her shoulder had felt, solid, alive. Counterpoint to the hollow victories of his days. He glanced back once, catching the crown of her head bent over the child, curls escaping like secrets. Then he turned forward, tablet reignited, numbers a firewall against the warmth he'd accidentally stolen. But the plane had other plans. Another pocket of rough air hit, fiercer this time. The cabin lurched, overhead bins rattling like accusations. Alexander gripped his armrest, knuckles bone-white, the jolt mirroring the one in his chest. He wouldn't look back, couldn't. Vulnerability was a boardroom bluff, not this raw snag on a stranger's wool. "You're Alexander Hale," his mind barked. Empires don't lean on strangers. Yet the echo of her whispered fine nod, implication heavy, "You saw me. Don't pretend you didn't." Lila felt the turbulence like a slap, the plane's dip yanking Mia awake with a startled cry. "Mama," the girl burrowed closer, elephant tumbling to the floor. Lila scooped it up, heart hammering from more than the drop. His gaze, lingering before he retreated, had peeled back a layer she kept sealed. It meant nothing, she insisted inwardly, buckling Mia tighter, the click of the belt a vow of self-sufficiency. Nothing. Then why did her shoulder tingle, phantom weight pressing like a promise she couldn't afford? 2 years of solo flights, literal and otherwise, had taught her, lean on no one or fall harder. The flight attendant materialized then, a whirlwind of efficiency with a tray of ginger ales. "Rough patch ahead, folks, buckle up, anything I can get you." Her eyes flicked between them, sharp as a matchmaker's, the curtain no longer a full divide in the dim light. Alexander waved her off curtly. "We're good. We." The words slipped, unintended, hanging in the recycled air like smoke. Lila's cheeks burned, but she met the attendant's gaze steadily. "Just water, please, for her." A nod toward Mia, deflection pure. But as the woman poured, Lila stole a glance forward, his profile rigid, jaw set. "Like granite, go back to your world," she thought, fierce and aching. "I can't crack for a suit who'll vanish at landing." The attendant lingered a beat too long, bridging the gap with forced cheer. "Long halls make strange bedfellows, eh? Holler if you need." She winked, retreating, but the seed was planted, external eyes on their accidental tangle. Alexander exhaled sharply, rubbing his temple where her wool had imprinted. Denial surged. Book the upgrade home, bury it in emails. But the child's cry echoed faintly, a hook in his resolve. Lila hushed Mia with a story, wildflowers in the clouds, her voice steady, but inside, resistance frayed. One touch doesn't rewrite lonely, yet the lie tasted bitter, the spark refusing to gut her out. As the plane steadied, so did their walls, higher but trembling. The plane's steadiness was a cruel tease. Minutes after the walls rebuilt, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, laced with the false calm of practiced crises. "Folks, we've hit some unexpected weather over the Rockies. Diverting to Boise for a safe landing. Should be on the ground in 20. Apologies for the inconvenience." Groans rippled through the cabin like aftershocks, but for Alexander it was a summons he couldn't ignore. His tablet died mid-email, battery betrayed, leaving him adrift in the dimming lights. He glanced back, don't, but there she was, the woman with the child, murmuring reassurances as the girl whimpered. Lila's stomach knotted tighter than Mia's fists in her cardigan. Boise, that meant hours, maybe a night, in limbo, her connecting flight to Seattle a ghost. "It's an adventure, baby," she whispered, but her voice wavered, the lie thin as the recycled air. The descent was bumpy, tires screeching onto rain-slicked tarmac under a sky bruised purple. Deplaning was chaos, harried passengers shoving for the terminal, announcements garbling over the storm's howl outside. The Boise Airport Lounge was a purgatory of fluorescent buzz and threadbare vinyl, overbooked, understaffed, a far cry from SeaTac's gloss. Alexander loomed at the gate agent's desk, his credit card a golden ticket waved like a white flag. "Suite at the Hilton, whatever it takes." But the agent shook her head, harried eyes darting. "Sir, everything's grounded. Overflows in the family lounge, first come, first served." Overflow. The word stuck like grit. He turned, scanning the room, clusters of stranded souls, a vending machine humming judgment. And there, in the corner by the play area, a cluster of mismatched chairs forming a makeshift nest. She sat, Mia curled in her lap, elephant sentinel. Their eyes met across the fluorescent divide, a jolt sharper than turbulence. Alexander's jaw tightened, fate's thumb on the scale. He could pace the terminal, bark into his phone for a private jet, but Mia's cough cut through, wet and insistent, pulling at something paternal he'd long suppressed. With a resigned exhale, he approached, overcoat draped over. Arm like a shield. "Mind if I join the fort, looks sturdier than the gate." Lila's gaze flicked up, wary but softening at Mia's curious stare. The lounge's draft whispered through cracked windows, carrying the storm's ozone tang, chilling her bones. Space was a premium, chairs scarce, outlets claimed. "It's not much of a fort," she said, voice laced with dry humor, shifting to make room. "But yeah, storms got us all pinned." He sank into the adjacent seat, the vinyl creaking under his frame, worlds colliding in the squeak. Mia peeked from her blanket cocoon, eyes wide. "Mister has a watch like Daddy's," she piped, pointing at the glint on his wrist. Alexander froze, the child's words a scalpel to old scars. No kids, no daddy echoes in his sterile life. He forced a smile, awkward but genuine, unclasping the Rolex and dangling it like a toy. Does he want to see the hands move, tick-tock like a heartbeat? Mia giggled, tiny fingers brushing his, and Lila watched, breath caught. His hands, strong, veined from years gripping reins, moved with surprising gentleness. "You're good with her," Lila murmured, unpacking a snack from her bag, crackers slightly crushed. "Most suits aren't." He handed back the watch, rubbing his wrist as if the touch lingered. "Suits, guilty, but kids, they don't negotiate. Reminds me of boardrooms minus the egos." A pause, subtext heavy, their knees inches apart, heat bridging the chill. "I'm Alexander, and you?" "Lila," she offered a cracker, gesture small but loaded. "This is Mia. We're headed home to Coma. You?" "Seattle, business as usual." His laugh was low, self-deprecating. "Except when skies conspire. Ever feel like the universe is matchmaking midair?" Her cheeks warmed, but she held his gaze, the storm outside mirroring the one stirring within. Or just testing. Single mom, delayed flight, feels like the universe's idea of a joke. The words slipped, deeper than intended, vulnerability surfacing in the proximities. "Breath." Alexander leaned in slightly, voice dropping. "Not a joke, brave maybe. I build firewalls for a living code, companies, but you, holding it together with crackers and courage, that's the real empire." Silence bloomed, charged, as Mia dozed against Lila's side. The lounge's hum faded, leaving only their breaths sinking in the forced nearness, reluctant but unraveling threads of isolation. The lounge's fluorescent hum dulled as the storm outside raged on, rain lashing the windows like accusations. Mia's cough had worsened in the chill, evolving from a tickle to a rasping bark that clawed at Lila's composure. She rocked the girl gently, forehead pressed to sweat-damp curls, whispering, "Breathe easy, love, Mama's here." But her voice frayed at the edges, feverish heat radiating from Mia's skin, the elephant limp in her tiny grip. No pediatrician here, just the vending machine's indifferent glow and a payphone that mocked her empty pockets. Alexander watched from his vinyl perch, the sight twisting something primal in his gut. He'd called in favors, his assistant scrambling for a hotel voucher, a doctor on standby, but delays piled like storm clouds. "She needs warmth," he said quietly, shrugging off his overcoat and draping it over them like a cape. The wool carried his scent, enveloping them in unintended intimacy. Lila's eyes met his, gratitude flickering through the fear, but she pulled back slightly, pride a reflex. "It's just a cold," she murmured, though her hand trembled as she rummaged in her bag for tissues. The sketchpad tumbled out, her secret harbor, pages splayed open on the floor between them. Alexander's gaze snagged on it instinctively, charcoal strokes of wildflowers thrusting through cracked concrete, petals fierce and frayed. But deeper in, a sketch that stopped him cold, a man's silhouette vanishing down a sunlit beach, waves erasing footprints, a small hand reaching from the frame's edge. He picked it up carefully, as if it might shatter, the paper's texture rough under his fingers like his own unspoken drafts. "These are yours." His voice was low, reverent, thumb tracing the abandoned figure without permission. Lila's breath hitched, reaching to reclaim it, but pausing, his eyes held no judgment, only a shadowed recognition. "Yeah, therapy on a budget." A beat of silence, subtext thick, "See me?" "The pieces that don't fit," she exhaled, the confession slipping free. "He left 2 years ago, chased freedom in Maui, said fatherhood was a cage. Mia was 3 months old, still in onesies. I found his note in her crib." Flashback bloomed unbidden, the nursery's yellow walls mocking her, the paper's ink smudged by her tears, the weight of Mia's midnight cries anchoring her to the floor. No rage, just a hollowing grief that carved her into this self-reliant shell. Alexander's grip tightened on the pad, his own ghost stirring. The sketch's vanishing man echoed his ex-wife's parting, "I can't build a life in your shadow." Alex, too many ghosts in those empty rooms. He set the pad down, fingers lingering on the reaching hand. "I get it, the leaving." His words hung, sparse but loaded, pulling him into the breach. 5 years back, she walked out of our penthouse. No kids to tether her, just echoes. Said I was married to the work. Left her ring on the marble island, cold as the scotch I drowned in after. The memory flooded, dawn light slanting through floor-to-ceiling glass, the band glinting like a severed vein, his reflection fractured in the polished surface. No pleas, just the empire's roar filling the void he'd helped create. Lila's eyes softened, tracing the lines of his face, the subtle etch of loss around his mouth, mirroring her own. You carry it like armor, the suits, the firewalls, but it doesn't block the cold, does it? Subtext pulsed in the pause, neither does mine. He shook his head, a ghost of a smile. Doesn't, but sketches, they fight back like you. His hand brushed hers. Accidentally, third time tonight, passing the pad, electricity in the grays. Mia stirred, coughing softer now under the coat's warmth, her small form bridging them. The agent's voice crackled overhead. Flight delays extended, hotel shuttles in 2 hours. More limbo, but the revelation hung between them, a bridge of scars. Their worlds clashed, his polished voids, her gritty blooms, but in the unveiling, connection deepened, fragile as the storm-lashed sky. Yet the weight of truths intensified the unspoken fear. Could broken things fit without shattering anew? The agent's announcement hung like a distant thunder, but in their vinyl corner, time stretched elastic, 2 hours feeling like a stolen eternity. Mia's cough had eased under the overcoat's cocoon, her fever breaking into drowsy curiosity. She wriggled free, elephant in tow, and plopped onto the floor between them, crayons spilling from Lila's bag like colorful confetti. "Draw with us, Mr. Alex," the child's voice, bright as the lounge's vending glow, snagged Alexander's sleeve, pulling him down to her level. He hesitated, suit pants pooling around his knees, the posture absurd for a man who commanded conference rooms. "Draw, I'm more spreadsheets than scribbles." But his eyes crinkled, the flaw of his polished shell cracking into something boyish, eager, unpracticed. Lila watched, a soft smile tugging her lips, the sight easing the knot in her chest. He stayed, she thought, the realization warm as the crayon's wax. "Here, elephant needs a friend." Mia thrust a blue stub at him, and Alexander took it, his large hand dwarfing the tool. He sketched tentatively, a lopsided giraffe, neck wobbling like a drunk skyscraper. See, towering but tipsy. Mia erupted in giggles, the sound bubbling pure, chasing shadows from the room. Lila leaned in, shoulder brushing his accidentally, echo of the flight's lean, but deliberate now, a silent permission. Not bad for a firewall king. "What's the story?" Giraffe on the "From board meetings." He chuckled, low and genuine, the rumble vibrating through her like shared secrets. "Exactly. Escaped to the savannah, chased sunsets, not stock prices. Left the spreadsheets to the lions." His crayon paused, eyes flicking to hers, subtext soft, like "I wish I could." The humor lightened the air, a brief sunbreak in their storm, but it peeled back more, his longing for unscripted days, mirroring her sketches of wild escapes. Lila added petals to the giraffe's spots, her touch steady beside his. "Sounds freeing. Mia's dad chased sunsets, 2 real ones in Hawaii. Left us with rainy Tuesdays and crayon wars." She glanced at her daughter, voice threading warmth with whist. "But this, messy masterpieces, worth every drop." Alexander's gaze lingered on her profile, the curve of her cheek lit by the lounge's hazy light. "Messy is underrated. My ex called it chaos, couldn't stand the fingerprints on the glass. But you turn cracks into gardens." He set the crayon down. Hand grazing hers again, lingering this time. "Tell me one good messy memory, the kind that sticks." She paused, the question a key turning in a long-locked door. "Picnic last summer, beach, peanut butter sandwiches, Mia building the world's worst sandcastle. It collapsed 3 times, but she laughed like it was a palace. Felt like, enough, just us, waves whispering we were whole." Her eyes met his, vulnerability a bridge. "Your turn, something unboardroom." He exhaled, leaning closer, their knees touching now, a bond forming in the press. "Summer camp, kid 12 maybe. Built a fort from branches, convinced it was impenetrable. Girl next tent dared me to sleep in it. Rain came down biblical, everything flooded. Woke up shivering but grinning, first time I felt invincible, not because it held, but because I tried. A beat, his voice dropping. Haven't tried like that in years. Mia yawned, nestling against Lila's side, the drawing a colorful testament between them. Silence. Settled, not heavy but healing, peace in the lounge's hum, safety in the shared glow. Alexander's arm draped the chair back, not quite around her but close enough to imagine. Laughter's echo lingered, kindness a quiet flame. This could be healing. This could be us. But overhead, the shuttle's arrival crackled, reality's tether, pulling at the fragile weave. The shuttle's announcement sliced through their crayon-lit haven like a guillotine. Priority boarding for Seattle flight, departing in 10. Mia's eyes drooped heavier, the giraffe sketch clutched in her fist, but Lila gathered their things with reluctant efficiency, the warmth between her and Alexander cooling to a tentative glow. His arm lingered near her shoulder as he stood, a silent not yet, his gray eyes holding hers with unspoken promise. "This doesn't have to end here," he murmured, voice low against the lounge's rising chatter. "Coffee in Seattle, let me make it real." Lila's heart stuttered, real, the word a lifeline she'd almost grasped. "Maybe," she whispered, a smile ghosting her lips, vulnerability blooming one last time. But his phone buzzed then, insistent as a siren, shattering the pocket of peace. He glanced at the screen, emergency, Hailtech breach, and the color drained from his face. "I have to take this." He stepped away just beyond the chairs, voice dropping to clipped urgency. "Yes, patch me through. The firewalls, contain it now. This, distraction in Boise. Forget it, get me wheels to the office." The words landed like shrapnel, distraction twisting in the air. Lila froze, half bent over Mia's backpack, the phrase snagging her ears like barbed wire. Distraction. Their sketches, the stories, the graze of hands, reduced to a glitch in his empire's code. Heat flooded her cheeks, grief and fury colliding. She straightened, Mia's hand in hers a anchor against the storm. Distraction, the word escaped her lips, sharp as glass, drawing his head around. Passengers milled past, oblivious, but their corner shrank to a battlefield. Alexander's eyes widened, phone still pressed to his ear. "Layla, wait, that's not." He ended the call abruptly, stepping close, but the damage pulsed between them. "Not what us this," she gestured wildly at the sketchpad, the overcoat she'd folded back to him, symbols of the bridge they'd built. 2 hours of messy masterpieces, and I'm just a delay in your firewall. God, Alexander, I thought. I let myself think you saw me. Not the single mom glitch, but her voice cracked, tears pricking hot. But you're right, run back to your penthouse voids. We're better off as turbulence gone by morning. Harsh words flew from him too, defensive walls slamming up. You think I planned this? My world's on fire, literal code crumbling while I play crayons. I build things that last, Lila, not flings in lounges. The regret flashed in his eyes even as he said it, but momentum carried the blow. Flings. The subtext screamed, you're too broken for my polished life. I'm too broken for yours. Mia's lower lip trembled, sensing the shift, and Lila scooped her up, blanket trailing like a fallen flag. We're done here. She turned, shoulders rigid, the lounge's draft chilling the space he'd warmed. Alexander reached out, Lila, please, but his hand fell empty, silence swallowing the plea. He watched them go, the shuttle doors hissing shut behind, his chest hollowing to echo chambers. Worthy, the question clawed, of her sketches, her fire, this almost love, or just another empire of one. Lila buckled Mia in, tears blurring the rain-streaked windows, the bond in shards. Not worthy, her heart whispered, never was. The Seattle dawn crept through Alexander's penthouse blinds like an unwelcome guest, gray light pooling on marble floors that echoed his footsteps. He'd landed hours ago, private jet summoned, the breach contained with ruthless efficiency, but victory tasted like dust. The overcoat hung in the closet, wool still faintly scented. With lavender and crayons, a relic he couldn't discard, He paced the expanse, phone in hand, thumb hovering over her number, pilfered from the lounge agent with a barked favor. Lila Voss, 253 area code, Tacoma Roots. The screen blurred, his reflection fractured in the glass. A man armored in solitude, now cracked by a single mom's fire. Flings in lounges. The words he'd hurled replayed like a verdict, each syllable a self-inflicted wound. Pride had armored him for years, divorce a clean severance, empires built on calculated risks. But this, her sketches of resilient blooms, Mia's unfiltered joy, the way Lila's laugh had thawed his frost, it demanded mess. Vulnerability. The cost, admitting he wasn't the unbreakable Hale, but a man starved for anchors. He sank onto the leather couch, the same one that had swallowed his ex's goodbye and dialed. It rang once, twice, each tone a countdown. Voicemail. This is Lila. Leave a message or don't. Life's too short for echoes. Her voice warm, even. In recording, twisted the knife. Hi, it's Alexander from the flight, the lounge. Pause, breath ragged in the silence. Subtext screamed, I'm sorry, I saw you, really saw, and I ran. What I said, it wasn't you, it was me. Firewalls, remember, I build them high, but you make me want to tear them down. Call me, please. He hung up, the quiet crashing in penthouse vast as his regret. Would she hear the plea beneath the polish, or dismiss it as another suit's fleeting glitch? He waited, staring at the skylines in different spires, heart a pendulum, pride pulling away, vulnerability urging forward. Choose her, it whispered, or stay exiled. Across the sound, in the soft chaos of her Tacoma apartment, Lila stirred herbal tea under the kitchen's single bulb, steam curling like unanswered questions. Mia slept in the next room, elephant tucked under chin, the giraffe sketch taped crookedly to the fridge, a talisman of what almost was. The delay had stretched into a full day. They'd taxied home in yesterday's rain, her resolve hardening with each mile. But sleep had evaded her, replaying his touch, his stories, the way his eyes had softened over crayons. Distraction. The label stung, echoing her ex's note, you're holding me back. Avoidance was safer, curl into the routine of coffee shifts and bedtime stories, walls rebuilt higher. No more leaning on strangers who vanished. Her phone buzzed on the counter, his name flashing, Alexander Hale, a jolt like turbulence renewed. She stared, tea forgotten, steam fogging the screen. Pride surged, let it ring, you're enough alone. But vulnerability crept in, insidious, the memory of his hand grazing hers, steady as a vow, his confession of flooded forts, a boy admitting fear. He'd seen her sketches, her scars, and hadn't recoiled. Maybe he sees the garden, not the cracks. The voicemail icon blinked, insistent. She pressed play, his voice filling the dim space, low, frayed, the polish stripped to play. Tear. Them down, silence followed, heavy as the storm they'd weathered, her thumb tracing the screen's edge. Tears pricked hot and unbidden. The choice loomed, delete, retreat to the familiar ache of self-reliance, or answer, risk the shatter of mismatched worlds for the bloom of something real. Mia's soft snore drifted from the hall, a reminder of stakes, not just her heart, but the lesson of openness for her girl. Lila's breath steadied, fingers trembling as she typed. Coffee, Pike Place, noon, don't be late, send. The whoosh echoed, a bridge extended over the void. Back in his tower, Alexander's phone lit up, her words a lifeline. He exhaled, the pendulum stilling. She chose, but the tension lingered. Would noon seal the fracture or widen it? Vulnerability won for now, but love's reckoning waited. Pike Place Market thrummed with midday chaos, fishmongers hollering, tourists dodging silver arcs of tossed salmon, the briny tang of sea and spice hanging thick in the air. Lila arrived. Early, Mia's hand in hers, the girl's elephant peeking from a backpack slung over her shoulder. She dressed simply, jeans, a fresh blouse that hugged her curves without apology, heart a wild drum against her ribs. What if he doesn't show? The doubt nipped, but Mia's chatter about fish flying like birds chased it back. Noon struck on the clock tower, and there he was, Alexander, weaving through the crowd, no suit but a crisp button-down rolled to elbows, eyes scanning desperate until they locked on hers. He stopped short, breath catching at the sight, Mia waving wildly, Lila's smile tentative but blooming. You came, she said, voice soft over the market's roar, subtext a question, worth the risk. Wouldn't miss it. He closed the gap, dropping to one knee before Mia first, offering a small velvet box, not a ring, but a charm bracelet etched with wildflowers and a tiny giraffe. For the fort builder, to remind you, messes make masterpieces. Mia squealed, hugging his neck, and Alexander rose, gaze holding Lila's, raw, unguarded. And you, I'm sorry, for the words, the walls. You weren't a distraction, you were the crack in my code, the one that let light in. Tears pricked her eyes, but she stepped closer, the crowd fading to a hum. I heard fling and saw my ex's note all over again. Thought I wasn't enough, never am, single mom with crayon wars. Her voice trembled, then steadied, hand finding his. But you saw the garden, and I want to try messy real with you. He pulled her into the alcove by the flower stall, petals brushing their arms like blessings. Then let's tear them down, together. No empires, just us, coffee runs, sandcastles, whatever this becomes. His thumb traced her knuckles, then, deliberate as a vow, he leaned, head resting on her shoulder, warm and chosen, echoing that mid-flight accident but now anchored in intent. The world tilted right, her arms slipping around him, breath sinking in the salt-kissed air. Mia tugged his sleeve. Draw more, Mr. Alex. He laughed, lifting his head just enough to kiss Lila's temple, soft, promising. Every day, kiddo, every day. As the sun slanted gold over the market, their worlds wove, unexpected love at last, blooming fierce through the cracks. And there we land, hearts mended at 30,000 feet and beyond. What a ride of unexpected love. If this tale tugged at your strings like it did mine, drop a final comment. Where are you wrapping this up from, and what's the time on your end? Midnight reflections or sunset sighs? Your thoughts mean the world. Did the spark ignite for you? Thanks for soaring with us. Subscribe for more emotional journeys. Until next time. Story complete. Loved crafting this. Hit me with another title whenever you're ready.